In 1961, President Kennedy called on all Americans to rise to the challenges of the day. He knew that success depended upon the unity of efforts throughout the federal government and the nation. The Greater Boston Federal Executive Board, one of 28 across the country, fosters communication, coordination, and collaboration with federal, state, and local government agencies. This is your federal government, and I am your host, Diane LeBlanc. Hello everyone. Today we are featuring the Internal Revenue Service, and our focus will be on what you need to know to file your 2018 tax return. Our guest is Peggy Riley, Media Relations Specialist and spokeswoman for the IRS New England area. Peggy, welcome.
Thanks, Diane. Thanks for having me again.
I should say welcome back. You have become a sort of an annual guest here on the Your Federal Government show, and that's awesome because, again, we can give our viewers sort of an up-to-date on what they need to know for the current filing year.
Yes.
But before we get there, just for some of our viewers who may not have seen one of the previous shows with you, tell us a little bit about Peggy Riley, your background, and how long have you worked for the IRS?
I've been with the IRS for 35 years, and all of that time I've been in the Public Affairs Office. Okay. I started with helping to edit the internal newsletter when we used to have one of those paper newsletters that were sent out to the employees.
Remember those. Yeah.
And then worked my way up to now being, the sole person that's here in New England. And I do a lot of work on our irs.gov website, which is a great resource for people. You can find a lot of information right there. And I help out in doing interviews like this from time to time.
Sounds good. All right. So, very briefly, the basic mission of the Internal Revenue Service is what?
Well, it's to collect taxes that are due, but also to promote fairness within the tax system. So if you need some assistance, we want to be there to help you. And most people interact with us just once a year, filing their tax return, and may never hear from us again. But we have to, make sure that it's a fair tax system and that we're collecting the fair amount from everyone. Excellent.
So I know if you've been there for 35 years, you've certainly seen many changes over the years. The biggest being the advent of electronic filing, right?
Yes, and many years ago, I was right on the forefront of that. I was an electronic filing coordinator out there promoting it to the tax preparers when we were first starting, 20 some years ago. But that's now the biggest way of filing a return. About 90% of returns come in electronically. There's hardly any paper returns being processed anymore, but we still have that option for people that still want to fill it out by pencil and pen, but it's so much easier if you e-file.
Just in my background was with the National Archives and Records Administration, and we stored those paper tax returns, right?
Yes.
So on an annual basis, you remember, we would work together, and the tax returns, the paper returns that were filed here in this geographic area would come down to the National Archives facility in Waltham, Massachusetts, which was the regional headquarters. And I remember those early conversations. Electronic filing is coming, it's coming, it's coming.
Yes.
And it was just very slow, but now it's here, and you say 90%.
90% now, yes.
Wow.
And back in those days, it was really hard to get somebody to try to put all of that private, when you think about it, it's putting out your whole life story on the private, all your private information into an electronic file and sending it, though it's secure and, you should feel safe doing it, but was a big step in convincing people at the beginning.
So what has that meant organizationally, not necessarily nationwide, right? But here, sort of in the Massachusetts, New England area. I remember the Andover, Massachusetts Service Center used to be a major hub right?
Right.
And then there was a district office in Boston. So what does the IRS physical presence with employees look like here in our area?
So we still have an Andover IRS center, they're called now, but it doesn't necessarily, it does not process paper returns anymore. We only have 2 sites across the country that actually process paper returns because there's so few of them. But if you remember, before it was like football fields long,
crazy.
and it was just stacks and stacks of paper as far as you could see in carts, and mail being opened and sorted and all of that. But now there's other jobs there. There's a major call center at the IRS Andover office. It's still as big as it used to be. It's just a little bit more modernized. We do a lot of the e-filing comes in through there. There's a number of different offices, a big call center and other functions. Criminal investigation has offices there. There's still audits being done, your correspondence audits are done out of there. So there's still a number of jobs that are done in Andover. And we also still have a big office in Boston.
Okay.
And that's where we have one of our walk-in offices where you can actually walk in and get some assistance.
Okay.
And they're scattered across the state as well, but that's one of the main offices. They also have revenue officers are located there, and tax auditors and revenue officers. Yes, all of those positions are there. And we do have a criminal investigation presence in that Boston office as well.
Excellent. So we're probably going to come back to maybe what do people do if they actually want to go into the location. But so that's great just in terms of organizationally what the presence looks like here in this area. So how many tax returns will be filed across the country this year?
We're expecting about 154 million tax returns to be filed, and about 90% of those will be filed electronically. So many, many more people now are filing electronically as they become more accustomed. You do your banking online, you pay your bills online. Why not just file your tax return online?
There you go. I remember, again, going back at the very forefront of all of this, all of the discussion was around the legality of the signature, right, of an electronic signature, but
Right.
clearly that's all been
Over the years, that
worked out.
has been developed. At first, you may remember there was a paper document you had to sign and
Absolutely.
send in. The form, I think it was 8453.
Yep, and it went with it, the little...
And you had to
yeah.
attach your W-2s, your 1099s, any information that you had to send in, you still had to mail that document in no matter what. But now you can use a PIN, there's electronic filing, just using other options of verifying income and things from your last year's return to make sure it's you. But there's ways to do it all electronically now so that you don't have to mail anything in.
Yeah. So our focus is on the individual or the family filing a tax return as opposed to corporate filings.
Right.
Are corporate filings, though, are those done electronically?
Yes.
Those
Yep.
are done electronically
They can
as
be
well?
done electronically as well, yes.
Excellent. So of all of those people that will be filing tax returns, how many will get a refund?
Probably about 75 to 80% of people get refunds. This year, you may see that your refund may be a little bit lower, or you may end up owing, and that was part of the new tax law, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, where the withholding was changed, if you remember, once the
Yeah.
law was passed.
Okay.
And we told people to take a look and make sure that you're having the right amount withheld, because you may have noticed that you got a little bit more in your paycheck each week. So now when people are filing, if they didn't do that paycheck checkup, we were calling it,
Okay, yeah.
and go in and use the withholding calculator to make sure you were having the right amount calculated, or even if you did, you may find that you're getting a smaller refund, because the point is it's a pay-as-you-go system, and you need to pay in as much as you can up front.
Okay.
So when you use that withholding calculator, it's gonna get you most your money in your paychecks each week.
So the idea really should be you don't owe anything, but you don't get anything.
Right.
The idea behind that is you get and keep, or you keep as much of your money.
Right, and you get it during the year
as possible.
as opposed to getting it as a refund.
all right.
But many people like to get that big refund. So we're telling people, if this year you got something that you weren't expecting, your refund was a lot lower than you usually get, or you ended up owing, you may want to adjust that W-4.
So
You could do that now.
Yep. Okay. So let's come back to that in just a little bit, but let's back up. So what are the dates? What are the parameters for this year's filing season?
The filing season opened January 28th, so people could start filing then. Returns have been coming in since that time. Electronic filing is going well. And most people around the country have until April 15th to file.
That's the day everybody remembers, April 15th, right?
But, you know,
Tax
here
day.
in Massachusetts and in Maine, that's Patriots' Day. So it's a state holiday, so you automatically get to Tuesday the 16th, which happens to be Emancipation Day in the District of Columbia. So taxpayers in Maine and Massachusetts get until April 17th this year. You get a couple extra days.
All right. So if somebody hasn't done their taxes yet, what is it that they need to gather up? What is it that they need to have sort of in front of them and ready and organized to be able to file a proper return?
Well, before you start, you want to sit down and make sure you have all the documents that you're going to need. So your W-2s, your 1099s, anything that's going to show the income that you need to show on the return. And then also you have credits and deductions. So you would need to gather any receipts that may show charitable contributions, your mortgage interest statement, things like that. Any information that you may need to qualify for something on the tax return, just gather that all together so you have everything in one spot. Also, Social Security numbers. If you're filing a joint return, you need both your Social Security number and your spouse's, and then any dependents that you're claiming as well.
Okay. So what if, I mean, I know myself, the things start to come, these documents start to come in, right, just before tax season, and some things I'll get electronically, right, and
Sure.
then some things I'll get in the mail, and I'm remembering to put all of the things in the mail in one spot. I'm not necessarily printing out this stuff, you know, electronically right away, but what if somebody says, oh my goodness, what did I do with my W-2, or what did I do with that, or I don't think I got that.
So for a W-2 or a 1099, you should first start with your employer. If you, especially if you had more than one employer during the year. So you might forget that you had a job back in last February that you worked, or even, you know, Christmas time, you had a second job. You might forget and you didn't get your W-2. So you need to first contact that employer. And then if you can't get it from that employer, if you're still having trouble, then you can contact the IRS and they can help you either recreate it from your last pay stub or actually get in touch with the employer to get that W-2 to you. But you need to have all of that information before you begin. You know, if you're missing some 1099s, you might need to call your bank or your credit union, whoever you have that account with.
What percentage of people do their tax return themselves versus use a tax preparer?
We're seeing more and more people being able to do it themselves because of electronic filing. And especially this year, it's going to be a little bit simpler for a lot of people. Because of some of the changes that we're going to talk about later, it's going to be a lot easier for people to file, hopefully. We're seeing probably about 60 to 75% of people actually do their own returns.
Okay, all right. So you mentioned you could go to do your tax return this year, and because you've been getting a little bit more in your paycheck, right, this past year, your refund isn't going to be as big, or you may not get a refund, or it could be that you owe money. And you talked about the paycheck, what did you say, the paycheck checkup?
Paycheck checkup, we're calling it.
Paycheck checkup. So if that happens, and in worst case scenario, you do your tax return and you owe money and you weren't expecting to owe money. So what happens in that situation? Will the IRS work with you?
Yes.
I mean, talk about that.
The most important thing to do, even if you owe taxes, is to file that return on time, because you don't want to get penalized for not filing on time, and then have a penalty for not filing on time, and then possibly a penalty for not paying on time. If you can pay it by the due date, then that's the most perfect way to do it. There is a number of options. You can have it directly debited from your checking or savings account. You could pay by credit card through a third party. You could pay by cash at certain locations throughout the country. Or you could set up an installment agreement with the IRS so that if you can't pay that full amount at once, you could fill out this document and ask us to pay it off, in a timely fashion. It has to be a reasonable amount that you're offering to pay each month. But make sure it's something that you can afford to pay.
Sure. All right. So you take care of the immediate situation. You figure out how are you going to pay this, as you say, in a timely fashion. But then you need to make sure that you don't find yourself in the same predicament next year. So you reach out to your employer?
So this is the perfect time to do a paycheck checkup.
Okay.
So we have what we call a withholding calculator on irs.gov, which is our website. And you can go in there and you're going to need some information from your tax return, and such as filing status, some income amounts, and number of dependents and things like that. And it will help you determine how much you should actually have taken from your paycheck each week. Now, like we talked about before, if you want to get that bigger refund, you may want to have a little bit more taken out. Okay. So you would have to eventually file a new W-4 with your employer, and that would affect the amount that's taken out of your paycheck each week.
Does every adult have to file a tax return?
No, not necessarily. It depends on the income. And if you have any taxes withheld, even if you have low income, you'd want to file a return just so you can get that money back as a refund. Okay. So there are income limits depending on your filing status and your age. About a single person with about $12,000 worth of income definitely has to file a return. Right. But like I said, if you have taxes withheld and you're on the lower side of the scale, then you might want to file anyway just to get that money back.
Right. So somebody gathers up all the documents, they figure it out, they either do it themselves or they go to a tax preparer. Good news is they're getting something back. How long are they going to have to wait for that refund?
Most refunds are issued within 21 days. Some are much sooner, and if you choose direct deposit, you're going to get it. You can get it if you hit the system at the right time. You can get it within 10 days. Okay. What you don't want to stay away from is these paid tax preparers that are offering a loan on your refund, because you can get that refund in 10 to 21 days without having to pay an enormous fee to get that money up front. Okay. What they're promising you is a loan on that refund so you can get it right away.
So what are some things that might make it take longer for you to get a refund?
So at the beginning of the filing season, because of the PATH Act, which was passed a few years ago, we have to hold the earned income tax credit returns to take a little bit more of a look of that. That's one of the credits that really gets some abuse with people claiming children
and I remember that. So what exactly is that?
The earned income tax credit is a credit for low income working individuals and families. So with a family with 3 or more children, they could get up to $6,000 extra in their refund from this earned income tax credit, and it's refundable. So it doesn't just reduce the tax that you owe; it adds to your refund. So for low-income working families, it's a great opportunity to get a little bit more, at tax time. A lot of people overlook it, so we try to promote it as much as possible. People think, "Oh, I don't qualify for that; my income's too high." But you should take a look and figure out whether or not you do qualify while you're filing your return. But that is one of the things that could slow down the refund a little bit. And other returns just fall out for whatever reason. If there's a big change from one year to the next in income or deductions, it might fall out to be looked at a little bit, so it might delay the refund a little bit.
Does the IRS still do just sort of random audits? I mean, I know that, as you said, if there's some major change, right, that might trigger, an extra set of eyes on it or whatever. But are there just luck of the draw, random checks like you're going through security at the airport?
Well, we do call them random, but it's the computer that scores your return as it's being processed. And then some of the things that might trigger it is like you had very low income last year and then you had big income this year. Or you had big income last year and low income this year. So somebody might be on unemployment, they may have lost a job. So it may just get triggered to take a look at it, and then if it shows that, a common sense reason right away, then that might not become an audit. But a lot of our audits are done by correspondence, where you might receive a letter from the IRS just asking for more information to back up something that you've taken on your return.
Okay. So if you've filed your return and you think too much time has passed, it hasn't come back to you, how do you check on it?
If you're expecting a refund, we have a great app right on our website. It's called Where's My Refund? You'll need the refund amount, the filing status, and your social security number. You input that information and we'll give you an update as to if your return's been received and processed, and when to expect that refund. We also have an app for your iPhone or your Android that you can download. It's the IRS To Go app, and the Where's My Refund application is available on that as well.
Okay. All right. So, let's talk about the IRS website. What is the basic website?
IRS.gov.
Okay. And when you go there, it's going to be evident that there's a section for the current tax filing season?
Yes. When you go there, there's little boxes at the top for what do you want to do. It's kind of set up like, do you want to file a return? Do you want to check on your refund? There's questions up there, and it will lead you to the information that you need. And then if you also type in, and then there's boxes down below where there's pictures, and we highlight different areas that are important at this time of the year. So there might be like the kickoff to the filing season. If you click on that, you'll get information about the filing season. There's always one up there about tax reform. So if you want some information on what changed and what might affect you this year, you can click on tax reform. Want the latest information on scams, there'll be something on scams. Okay. And there's a great search feature right at the top. You could type in and find just about anything that you're looking for.
All right. So, can you, a couple things. You said you've got to put in your social security number, right? I know there's a lot of people out there that just don't like providing that kind of personal piece of information online, right? The website, it's protected,
Yes,
there's
it
security protections. Should people...
People shouldn't be worried. It's a
Okay.
very secure system. They're updating the system constantly and putting in security patches if they see a weakness. But it's a very secure system, and you should feel comfortable. You're filing your return with us. We already have that information. So putting that information in to get the status of your refund, you should feel very comfortable with.
So, if you have a basic tax return, or you're very organized and you've got all of your stuff, and you're going to do it yourself, you can go to the IRS website and actually file from that site?
So we have a program called IRS Free File, and it's in partnership with about 15, 16 companies where they're listed on our website. You have to start with irs.gov. Okay. Click on Free File. It will bring up a number of companies that you might qualify for free electronic filing with. And once you click on them and determine whether or not you qualify for the free filing, it will bring you into their site, and then you would file with them.
Okay.
So it's through a third party. We also have free file fillable forms, where it's an actual form on our website, but you have to kind of know a little bit about the tax law yourself, because it doesn't guide you through like the other electronic filing programs.
Okay. All right. So that's interesting. So it's possible that you might not qualify
Right.
for the
free filing.
And what
It's
would be a
based
reason
on-
you wouldn't qualify?
Most of them are based on income levels, so you'd have to go in and take a look with your filing status and what the income level is. Others offer, free for military, free in certain states. So each company has their own requirements. So you have to go in and take a look at the list on the Free File site and see which one you might qualify for. And even if you don't qualify for the free filing, you can still use that program to file. You'll just have a fee at the end of filing.
Oh, okay. All right. So what about, there's all kinds of software out there. Everybody's going to help you fill out your tax return. Is there a list of good ones that the IRS is okay with, or is there a list of bad ones that the IRS says stay away from these, they don't work?
Well, it's really important when you're choosing a tax preparer, you're right, or a tax preparation company. You want to make sure that they have, if they're providing electronic filing, then they have been approved by the IRS to file with them, so that you know that their systems are secure and that none of your information is going to be leaked or hacked into. So the list, first of all, starting with the free filing, is a great start. There's also a list of other preparers that are on our website at irs.gov that you can click on and take a look at. But you want to make sure it's a reputable person. A lot of people will ask their friends or relatives who they go to, because most people probably go to the same person year after year. You want to make sure that you never sign a return before they prepare it. So there are, preparers out there that are abusive and may try to take advantage of you in certain situations. So you just want to do a little homework before you pick who you're going to give all of that information to.
Okay. So I feel like my returns haven't changed like that much, right, in a long time. And I go to my preparer and they do their thing and I'm like, it doesn't seem very complicated, but they get paid a lot of money.
They do, and more people are finding that, with the electronic filing programs guiding you through and asking you questions with a little bit of knowledge, you should be able to, a lot of people are going to be able to do it themselves.
Okay, all right, so let's talk about the changes, right, that people need to be aware of for this filing season. With the W-2, what's the change there?
There is, you may notice on some W-2s, it's not on all W-2s yet, but on some W-2s, there's going to be a 16-digit verification code. And if the software asks you to input it and you have that code on your W-2, you should input that information. It's another security feature because identity thieves in the past have, stolen people's information and filed returns before the real person could get in there, and then it holds up that person's refund. So what they do is they create fake W-2s. So we're trying to stop some of that from happening by having this verification code now.
Okay. So how are we doing with regard to identity theft in connection with the filing of tax returns? Is it down?
It is down.
Okay.
We've been able to pinpoint where a lot of these are coming from and try to stop them up front. People that have been affected get special PIN numbers when they come back in to file so that it doesn't happen to them again. We've really been working hard. We have a security summit with many partners that we meet with each year, and it involves like the tax community, payroll professionals, because there's a number of ways that they're trying to get in there and file a return before you do and get that refund back. They're creating fake W-2s and fake information, making up dependents and things like that. So, and then when the real person comes in with their tax return, it gets held up.
They say,
it can be a
we
long
already
time.
got one from you.
Exactly.
No, you didn't.
So we've really been working hard, and we seem to be, tackling it, but there's always new scams that are popping up. So you have to be really careful.
That's it, okay. So the 1040 itself, how has that changed?
It has changed greatly.
Okay.
You may remember there used to be a 1040, a 1040A, and a 1040EZ. We now only have the 1040. And it's, a shortened return.
Okay.
But it's kind of a building block system, if you will. You file most people will file the 1040, and that may be all they need to do, especially if they just now take the increased standard deduction. That may be it. But with people with other deductions and credits, they may have to file schedules. So we have 6 schedules that may need to be filed, numbers 1 through 6. Whether you're claiming the earned income tax credit, or whether you have a non-refundable credit, or you have some other taxes that need to be paid, you may need to attach another schedule. But like we said before, for most people that are filing electronically, this will all be transparent because the questions that you're answering when you're filling out your return is still going to be the same.
Okay, all right.
People that are filing on paper may see a big difference.
Okay, all right. So the forms themselves have changed. There are some added protections, right, to really protect you against identity theft. What are the changes that are going to impact the bottom line?
Well, the standard deduction has changed. Okay. It's almost doubled. For a single person now, it's $12,000. It was $6,350 last year. But the personal exemptions have gone away. So they've doubled the standard deduction and the personal exemptions have gone away. So that might be a change that you see. And that's why many people won't need to itemize anymore. And a lot of the itemized deductions have changed anyway.
And how much was the personal exemption?
I can't remember exactly last year. It was
so is this a better deal for people?
Yes,
it's still a better deal for people.
In most cases, you'll see that it is. Because some of the itemized deductions have changed, most people will just need to take that standard deduction, and if you don't have any of these other credits or deductions, then you could just file that 1040 and be all set.
Okay. So if you're a single person, it's a $12,000 deduction. What if you're married?
If you're married, it's married filing jointly, it's $24,000.
Okay.
Married filing separately, it's $12,000.
Right.
And if you're head of household, it's $18,000.
Ah, okay. All right. So changes to itemized deductions?
Yep. So many people that used to itemize may find it more beneficial now to just take the standard deduction. It might work out better for them.
Okay.
It's
medical and dental expenses?
Yep, you can
any
still,
changes?
if you're itemizing, you can still take some medical and dental. expenses that are more than 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. So anything that's over that, you can deduct those as if you're itemizing.
Okay.
And your state and local income taxes, you can deduct up to $10,000.
All right.
Or property taxes as well. You could still take some deductions for home mortgage interest up to $1 million. And for
Wow. Who lives in those homes?
exactly.
Okay.
Well, the mortgage would be
Yep,
the
yep,
100,
yeah.
the million. But the home equity loans has a little bit of a change. You can only deduct that if you actually use the proceeds of that loan to either buy or build or better your home. If you got a home equity loan and paid your kids' college funds with that, then that's not deductible any longer.
Okay.
So there are a lot of changes to the itemized
How about
deductions.
charitable deductions? That's something that a lot of people have.
Yep, you can only claim charitable deduction contributions if you actually give to a charity that's recognized by the IRS, and you have to be able to itemize. And you may be able to take a little bit more of those contributions this year if you do qualify for itemizing. But as we said, many people are now going to find it more advantageous to just do the standard deduction.
What about moving expenses?
They're no longer available either.
Okay.
That was one of the things that went away, except for members of the military. It's still available for them.
Changes to benefits for dependents?
So we still have, so there's no personal exemption.
Right.
That's suspended. But we still have the child tax credit and the
Okay.
additional child tax credit. And the maximum has increased to $2,000 a child. And up to $1,400 of that can be refundable, which means it gets added to your refund. There's also a new credit for other dependents that may be over 17 that are college students, or maybe an older adult that you're now taking care of, and that can be up to $500.
What's the alternative minimum tax exemption?
That is, the alternative minimum tax is a tax that some people are hit with. It's a more complicated tax that comes into play when your income is higher, you have a lot of
Okay.
deductions. But the exemption amount has changed. It's increased to $70,000, so your adjusted gross income would need to be higher than that amount. So less people should have to pay that alternative minimum tax this year, which is a good thing.
You can't claim alimony payments anymore?
Nope.
Okay, all
They
right.
used to be deductible. They are no longer deductible. But
Okay.
also, as of 2018, you don't have to claim them as income either.
Student loans?
If a student dies and still has loan that are owed, that is no longer included in income, or if they become disabled.
Okay. What are the other major changes? What have we forgotten?
That is the biggest changes. There's a lot of changes for small businesses as well. So people should really take a look at the irs.gov website. If you go to irs.gov/tax reform, that will bring you to the tax reform webpage. And all of the information about all of these items is listed there. There's a section for individuals, there's a section for businesses, and there's a section for exempt organizations because they were affected as well.
Okay. So what if I go to the website, I'm either a small business, I'm the individual, I go there and I'm still having questions. I want to talk to a real person, either on the phone or in person. So where can I call on the phone?
You can call 1-800-829-1040. It is an automated system, so many of the prompts may lead you to automated information, which may answer your question, but there are prompts where you can actually get to speak to a live person.
Okay.
Obviously, we're very busy during the filing
Sure.
season, and you may, be on hold for some time, but there is live assistance at that phone number.
Does it tell you how long you're going to be on hold? Do you know?
I am not sure if the system
Right.
does that
All
at
right.
this point.
I like the ones that tell me
Yeah,
how long.
that's
I
true.
kind of feel like I'm at Disney World. It says, if you want to get on this ride, you're going to wait 2 hours.
That's true.
You told me, and I wait 2 hours,
Right.
right? It's my choice.
Right. I'm not sure if it does that at this
Okay.
point.
Okay.
But there is live assistance, and
Okay.
you may have to wait.
Right.
Obviously, the beginning
what if
of the
it
week
starts working
is,
you through, like, all of the prompts, right? What if you just hit 0? Is that going to get you to? Because that's what a lot of people do, right?
I've done that myself on many calls.
And
yes.
it probably works half the time.
Right. But you want to
but we
get to the area where they're going to be able to answer
So you want
your
to listen.
question.
You actually
So
want
you
to
should
listen.
go through the prompts because
Okay.
there's different assisters for different types of
Sure.
questions. So if you
Okay.
have a question on your refund, that's going to go to a different group of
Yep.
call assisters than if you had a question on, do I need to include this on my tax return?
Now, assistance available in different languages?
We have a lot of material available on our website in
Okay.
different languages. We
Okay.
have a real lot of information available in Spanish, but we're also reaching out to Vietnamese, Russian, Cantonese. So
Okay.
we have some information, not the whole entire website, but we do have a lot of information available in other languages.
All right. So you've got that basic number that gets you, to the call center, and they can get you to the right place to actually talk with somebody who can hopefully help you. What if you want to physically make an appointment and go in face to face? So say you're here in Massachusetts. What are your options?
We have a number of offices throughout Massachusetts. There is a phone number on the website that you can call to schedule an appointment at one of these offices. We have them in Boston, we have one in Springfield, we have one in Stoneham, we have one in Hyannis. I think we still have one in Brockton. So there's a number of different offices in different areas scattered throughout Massachusetts.
Right.
And there is a phone number listed on the IRS website that you can call and actually schedule an appointment to speak with somebody. But you can also go in to just pick up, some publications or forms if you want to take a physical look at, what things have changed.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to file a paper return, I mean, you used to be able to go into the post office and pick up the forms, or your library. They would have to download the forms.
Many
How would
places
they get the
don't
form?
stock forms anymore.
Okay.
We used to have them. Grocery stores had them.
Yeah,
Libraries
yeah.
had them. Post offices had them. Most of them don't stock it. Many libraries will have reproducible forms, so you could photocopy it.
Okay.
You could go in and they have a big document that you could just photocopy.
Right.
Or you could call, we still have a tax forms line, 1-800-829-3676,
Okay.
which actually spells out tax form.
Ah,
So you could order them, or you could just download them and print them off the IRS website.
okay, excellent. All right, so we talked a little bit about identity theft, some of the things that are coming out of your partnerships with the security summit, to protect those who have to file. But you said, the scammers are clever and they're always coming up with new things. What are some things people should be leery of?
Well, we still see telephone scams where they're calling and saying they're the IRS and you're going to be arrested or deported if you don't pay this amount of money. And sometimes they're asking for iTunes gift cards. You're not going to pay your taxes in iTunes gift cards. So right there, you should know that that's a scam.
Okay.
But many people have been scammed by these, scam artists and have either paid them cash or gift cards in the past. So you want to just be sure. The IRS is not going to be calling you saying you owe money and we're going to put you in jail.
So
if
that,
you owe money, you should know because you're going to get a notice first.
That's a big message, right? Because these scammers, they prey on individuals in a variety of situations.
Exactly.
They certainly prey on our senior citizens, and so if you get a phone call and they're the IRS and it's not the IRS.
Right.
Okay.
If you do get a phone call from the IRS, you should know that you should be expecting that.
You're
you would have gotten a
expecting
letter
it.
or many letters before we would get to that
Okay.
point.
All right. So let's talk about scammers in written correspondence. Is there anybody out there that's still putting stuff down on
Believe
paper
it or not, they are.
and mailing it? A mail fraud?
There is mail
what do those
fraud,
look like?
or there could be emails. You may
Okay.
get an email that is disguised to look like, they'll use the Treasury logo or the IRS logo.
Or you get
and
a
it looks very
text message,
official.
right?
Yes.
That you need to do something.
Don't click on any links because
Okay.
they're probably trying to download some malicious software onto your computer
Okay.
so that they can get information from that. And they're looking for credit card numbers if you've ordered something online,
Right.
or even your tax return. If you did that and you have it stored on your computer, they could get your social security number, a lot of personal information. So they're trying to steal that information so that they can use that information to create a new credit card and go charge it, or to file a false tax return like we said before.
But I think the bottom line is if there is an issue that needs to be resolved with the IRS, you're going to get some sort of a formal letter from the Internal Revenue Service. and it's not going to require that you jump through a million hoops within the next 10 minutes or the world is going to come to an end.
Right. No, the notice will give you a certain amount of time to respond, or to say that, hey, I don't agree. You can disagree with what the IRS has found.
An appeals process.
And then you may have to send in some more information.
Okay.
So, we may say, well, this dependent was claimed on this tax return. So you may have to provide some information that you are qualified to take that dependent, just an example. So you would receive a notice. Or even if you did owe money to the IRS, you would get a paper bill in the mail.
Okay. All right. So just beware.
Right.
Beware. Okay. So what else? What else do we need to let people know? What if the days just get away from them and they're coming up against the deadline and they haven't gotten it in yet? What do they do?
You don't want to rush and make mistakes. So the best thing in that case would be to file an extension of time to file. Okay. So you do that by filing a Form 4868. You can do that electronically for free. But if you owe, you're still going to have a failure to pay penalty or a failure to file penalty if you don't get that extension in on time. Okay. If you get the extension in, you won't have the failure to file penalty, but you may have a failure to pay penalty. So it's in your best interest, if you think you may owe, to get the return in timely if you can, but don't rush and make mistakes. You can file an extension and then you'll have until October to get that return in.
Okay. What about somebody who might be out there that, owes the IRS money from several years, right? And they've stopped filing, they've kind of gone underground, and they want to make it right. Does the IRS still have a program that will work with somebody?
Yes.
Is there an opportunity for them to sort of try to make it right? What does that look like?
So the worst thing to do is to ignore an IRS letter or an IRS bill. It's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse. Interest and penalties continue to accrue. You'll still get notices. You may get a lien if you own property. So there's many things that are a levy on your paycheck if you're working. So you want to make sure that you get those returns in and pay as much as you can. And we will work with you. So if you have some back returns to file or you owe money, we can set up a payment plan with you. You should just get in contact with the IRS and try to work out the issues as soon as possible.
Can an individual do that on their own behalf, or do they need an attorney representing them? Do they need one of these firms that says, do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more? Call me today and I'm going to reduce that to 50 cents.
They always say that, and if it sounds too good to be true, then it's probably too good to be true. If it's not a big, huge situation where it's really complicated and you owe, thousands and thousands of dollars, most people could do that themselves by just calling the IRS and working it out. Or your accountant, whoever's helping you file those returns, may be able to help you set up a payment plan as well. But for most people, you don't need to be calling those firms. And if they're advertising that something that sounds too good to be true, then it probably is too good to be true.
All right. So we've covered an awful lot of ground, as we always do during the tax filing season. But if we missed anything, what?
Well, I do want to get a plug-in for the volunteer sites, too. Oh. Not only do we have help online, but we train volunteers that are out in your local communities. They're volunteer income tax assistance sites and tax counseling for the elderly sites.
Okay.
And we have a listing of those on our website, too, irs.gov, where you can actually go in. If your income is low and your return's pretty simple, you can make an appointment, and these volunteers will actually help you file your return for free.
Excellent, excellent. Well, so sort of connected to that, what about jobs, real paying jobs with the Internal Revenue Service? I would imagine that during filing season, your need for, individuals goes up. Again, I remember they used to be called seasonal employees.
Yes, we still have seasonal.
We used to have seasonals, part-times, and intermittents.
Right.
Do you remember intermittents?
Yes.
There you go.
We have seasonal employees each year, so the call site hires people to help answer, trains them in tax law, and they help answer some of those tax law questions. Then, right near the end of the filing season, they're also setting up installment agreements or making payments or things like that. So the call site is a good site to where we'll be hiring. I know I've seen some announcements about revenue agents being hired recently as well.
Okay.
And some in the tax exempt organizations division as well. They're looking for some revenue agents there. And I believe I saw something on criminal investigation hiring. But the best way to find out about any of these jobs is usajobs.gov.
There you go. Just every federal agency uses usajobs.gov.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, last words of wisdom.
Check the website, irs.gov. If you're looking for information on tax reform, great website, web pages there, irs.gov/tax reform. There's a couple of tax reform publications that we have out there too. 5307 for individuals and families, and 5318 for small businesses, where they can get information in simple terms about what the changes are that might affect them.
Excellent, thank you. It is always a pleasure. So
Thank
we
you.
will end with that. I want to thank Peggy Riley for being with us once again and for helping us to understand some of the changes to the tax law. I thank you for watching, and I hope that you will continue to join us as we feature other federal agencies on your federal government.